Okay, so how did a really dense 20th century French philosophy book become the secret blueprint for American cyberculture and somehow one of the biggest movies of all time? It's a weird, fascinating journey, so let's get into it. It all kind of kicks off with a movie prop. You almost definitely recognize this hollowed out book from the opening of The Matrix. It's where Neo keeps his illegal data disks. It's a super cool, very specific detail, but it is so much more than just a prop. Because here's the thing, that book is real, and what's inside it is pretty much the key to our entire story today. We're talking about a set of ideas so radical, they got remixed and reinterpreted by hackers, artists, and filmmakers for decades. To really get it, we need to go back in time to a group of French thinkers who weren't just writing philosophy. They were asking these questions that sounded like pure science fiction, questions that would, kind of by accident, become the operating system for a whole new generation of tech pioneers. So this is the crucial question right here. It sounds simple, but it completely flips centuries of thinking upside down. Instead of us, humans, creating and controlling our tools, what if our technology, our systems, our machines were actually creating us? This was, well, a totally explosive idea. And here are the main players. Each of them had a slightly different name for this big idea. Foucault called it the apparatus, the invisible social structures that guide our lives. Deleuze just called it the machine, seeing all of society as a series of connected systems. And for Baudrillard, it was the simulacrum, a copy of something that doesn't even have an original anymore. But they were all pointing to the same thing. We live inside these huge technological systems that are literally shaping our reality. So how did these super abstract French ideas become like a practical blueprint for anything? Well, they found the perfect laboratory in the chaotic, Wild West days of the early internet. You had these early internet thinkers like Hakim Bey, who saw the web not as a mall, but as a temporary autonomous zone. It was a digital frontier, a place for hackers and activists to build new communities and just completely evade control. It was the perfect space for these anti-authoritarian French ideas to really take root. And here's where we see the first great example of a creative misreading. The philosophers Deleuze and Guattari used this surfer metaphor, and they were literally talking about, surfing on water. But early web pioneers saw that and thought, that's it. That's what we're doing. They adopted it as a prophecy for navigating the internet, for surfing the web. They found an even more powerful idea in the concept of the rhizome. Just think of a plant like ginger or maybe crabgrass. There's no main root, right? There's no top-down structure. It just spreads out in every direction, connecting everything sideways. And this right here was the big aha moment. Early web pioneers looked at the decentralized, non-hierarchical way the internet was built, and they realized it's a living, breathing rhizome. It wasn't just a network of computers. It was a philosophical model that had come to life. And from there, the ideas just mutated and spread. They jumped from the digital underground into science fiction, feminist theory, and even into the world of electronic music. The remix was really just getting started. The feminist theorist Donna Haraway took these ideas and basically gave us our modern concept of the cyborg. For her, a cyborg wasn't just some movie monster. It was a way of thinking about how we are all hybrids of biology and technology, of fact and fiction. And with this incredible line, she turned the whole idea into a political statement. It was a complete rejection of old, natural ideas about identity. Instead, she said, let's embrace our messy, beautiful, constructed, technological selves. These theories also became the unofficial philosophy of the whole cyberpunk literary movement. You had authors like William Gibson writing about cyberspace, and then fans and critics were using concepts like Baudrillard's simulation to make sense of these brand new, totally disorienting worlds they were creating. Now, this might be the wildest application of all of this. Experimental DJs like DJ Spooky literally took Deleuze and Guattari's incredibly dense language and used it to describe exactly what they were doing in the booth. The DJ, the turntables, the crowd, that was a desiring machine. The samples they were cutting up, sonorous blocks of affect. They weren't just playing records, they were actually practicing philosophy on the dance floor. And all of this brings us right back to where we started. All these underground currents, from hacking to sci-fi to music, they finally came together and just exploded into the mainstream with one iconic film. So yes, that hollowed-out book from the beginning, It is Simulacra and Simulation by Jean Baudrillard. The film is literally tipping its hat to the philosopher of the copy without an original, the idea of a perfect simulation that has completely replaced reality. But, and this is the ultimate twist, the filmmakers fundamentally got Baudrillard wrong. The entire point of The Matrix is escaping the simulation to find the real world, right? Well, for Baudrillard, the whole point of the simulacrum is that there is no real world left to escape to. The copy has totally replaced the original. There's nowhere else to go. So what did the philosopher himself think about all this? Well, when he was asked to consult on the sequels, Baudrillard turned them down, saying their understanding of his work was, at best, a vague asymptotic horizon, which is a very polite, very French way of saying, you guys completely missed the point. So what does this all mean in the end? We've seen how these really complex ideas traveled through American culture along two very different tracks. One was academic and one was, well, a little more wild. On one hand, you have the academic world. It's institutional, it's text-based, it's a closed system that's trying to preserve the original meaning of an idea. But then you have the culture industry. It's horizontal, disposable, a kind of forgetful machine that just remixes, reinterprets, and even misinterprets ideas to create something totally new. And this leads to a pretty fascinating paradox, which is perfectly captured in this quote. The ideas became so successful, so embedded in the culture, that they basically disappeared. Their effects were absolutely everywhere, but their origins got forgotten, just totally absorbed by the machine. I mean, it's an incredible story when you think about it. A set of radical philosophies jumped from these stuffy Parisian seminar rooms to hacker chat rooms, from cyberpunk fanzines to DJ booth, and then finally onto the biggest movie screens in the world, changing their shape at every single step of the way. Which leaves us with a final question to chew on. When an idea gets remixed this heavily, is its power just watered down and lost? Or is that exact process, that mutation and misinterpretation, what actually allows it to plant the seeds for the next totally unpredictable wave of culture?